everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. So today we're going to talk about JSONs on the dashboard, right? So we're going to look at how the JSON looks like on the dashboard, and we're going to tweak some JSON, and then we're going to look at a little bit more advanced options. So I won't be talking any more machine learning because I realized this is a very introductory course, and I think I've covered very basic stuff around machine learning, right, and until my previous lecture. So if you haven't watched my previous lecture, I would highly encourage you to go and check it out because we have talked about the data bindings in the last lecture. So today what we're going to do, we're going to open the same dashboard which I've created last time, and then excuse me, and then we're gonna look at the JSON, how the JSON looks like, and what happens when we add value to the JSON, and what happens when we take the value out from a JSON, right? Okay, sounds good. So first thing first, you need to excuse me, you need to log into your org. So as usual, you need to register for your Einstein org. If you don't know how to do that, there is please go and look at my first video, that's Introduction to Einstein and Machine Learning. I'll put the link in the description below for your own for your information. Okay, so what we're gonna do, so when you log into your org, you're gonna you'll be the setup page, right? Now, so go to the tic-tac-toe, this app icon here, and then it takes you to Analytics Studio, right? And then and then we'll take you to your let's say I'm gonna open this new dashboard binding. That's the one we worked on last time, right? So this looks nice and easy, right? This is great. So now what we're gonna do, so use the keyboard shortcut, right? Control Shift E excuse me. It takes you to this nice looking JSON. I mean, if you're someone who never seen a JSON before, then I would highly encourage you to go and check out the JSON before you watch this tutorial, because I won't be explaining what how the JSONs are formed, and how to formulate a JSON, and how to look at the fields. So I expect you to know that. So because we are not doing any coding here, but just to give you a context, if you wanted to tweak from a JSON, you can do that. So okay, so what we're gonna do, so we're gonna look at, okay, let's close this one. Let's pay attention to this chart, right? So the way to look at this, so if you click here, go to the properties here, and go to query. So we have this one, right? Total amount measure, right? Go here and copy this one, and Control Shift E will take you to this place, and Control F, right? And so this is the page where this JSON information represent the properties, right? So the broadcasting is enabled, and then we look at this is grouped by total amount, right? And then we have selection mode single, and then we have the bands, and we have other stuff. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, pay attention to this one, right? Groups. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close this, right? And I'm gonna add another group by to this, right? Let's say group by last name, right? And then I'm gonna update it. Okay, now let's go back to the JSON again, Control Shift A, right? And then look at this value again, total measure, right? And then you need to, if you scroll down, okay, let's go that again. Okay, so if you, no. Right, okay. Right, so if you look here, so you see that we have added the extra contact.last name, right? So this is how the JSON gets modified when you do something on a dashboard, right? When you do something on a chart, when you do something on a table, the information gets written to the JSON file, right? That's why remember when I talked about data flows, I mentioned to you guys that it's always good to take a backup. Though the backup file is always a JSON file, right? So everything is in the form of a JSON. So I'm just showing you how to read and understand JSON so that it's become very clear for you. And so let's look for the contact.last name, right? So if you look at the contact.last name, so this is a column map, which gives information about the columns, right? And then so what happens is now then you have another column map. So that's to do with a chart object. So right, now let's go back and I'll show you. So this is the chart, right? And so that's why you see the value get changed, right? Because we have added the group by last name. So now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take this off, right? And I'm gonna add the group by a last name using a JSON, right? Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, right? So you can see right now it's only we have a total decimal amount, right? So now we're gonna do by contact.last name. So the way to do that, as usual, Control-Shift-E, right? And then go to the chart bar here, right? So look at so what we're gonna do. So we're gonna look at sorry, not that one. I think it's a total measure or something. Total amount measure. Sorry, let me double check it. The name of it, so it's easy to. Okay, this one. All right. So Control-Shift-E. So we're gonna highlight here on the canvas, on the editor, and then you Control-F. Okay, now here's the group. So what we're gonna do, so right now it's only grouping by, it's the groups is only one, right? It says total amount. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add contact dot last name, right? And then we're gonna go down to the column section. So here, right? And we're gonna add the contact dot last name, right? And then we're gonna go to chart one, right? So we're gonna go to chart underscore one, and then we're gonna go here, and so we're gonna add it here. So contact dot last name. You might wonder why I'm doing this, right? I'll tell you why in a minute, because we're gonna write a query and we're gonna link that to this chart. So that's why I'm demonstrating you this first, so that everything comes into picture, right? Everything is clear when I do the other stage, second part of it. Okay, so what we've done, so we have looked for this chart one, because the chart one, and then the other query. So we have added 3 places, and they're gonna save. Excuse me. Voila! You see the changes have taken place. Now you see I've added the field here as well. Cool. Now that's great. So let me take this off, and you can do that for other options as well. So let's say if I add filters, right? So let's say I wanted to filter this by last name, and say Muller, right? And add, and you're gonna update it, and then you're gonna go Control-Shift-E, and let's look for filter. Okay, filters. So we're gonna look at the filters, and probably gonna look at Muller somewhere, right? So this is a filter here. It's added a filter here, so it says in. So you see that condition as well. So this is how you write filters. So you need to pay attention if you wanted to do something using JSON, right? So the best way to do it, first you go to the interface and add a feature using point and click, right? And then go back to the JSON to see how the JSON values are populated. So copy paste into the notepad or wherever, and then when you wanted to do this other stuff, you can actually use the similar logic. Now, when I meant by other stuff, right, what I'm talking about is creating a query, right? So now you might wonder, why do you have to create a query, right? So if you see right now, we have an option, we have a nice looking, fairly nice looking dashboard where filters and everything is applied. Now, what happens, right? I wanted to, you can actually filter this by different stuff, right? You can filter by account name, you can filter by last name. That's all fine. But what happens if you wanted to add a group by feature, right? What happens that if you wanted to give a client an option to do a group by last name or group by first name, right? So in that case, the create query will come into picture. It's very handy. You're giving a customer additional option on a dashboard. You are actually extending the dashboard to giving more feature, like you can add a limit to the number of queries that fetch. Let's say you wanted 50 queries, 50 rows to be returned. You can actually use the create query option, and then you can use a static binding to do that, right? And this is what I'm gonna do today to demonstrate how to do that. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add a group by clause to this existing chart. So we're gonna use, just to make it very simplified, I'm gonna use a toggle feature, right? So this is a toggle filter. So usually toggle means yes or no, right? But in our case, we're gonna use first name, last name, right? Just to make it very simplified, nothing fancy about it here, right? So we're gonna so what happens is that when you run this dashboard, and you're gonna have the toggle option here. When you do last name, it will group by amount and the last name. Then if you do first name, it will group by amount and the first name, right? So that's the functionality I'm going to add. Let's say you assume that your customer has requested for it. So now, if you're a technical consultant or a functional consultant or an architect, you should know, if you're working with Einstein, you should know how this works. It's pretty straightforward, and it does not involve any coding at all. JSON is not really coding, to be honest. So, I mean, that's, just all right, whatever. Okay, go to create query, right? And then we're going to use this data set, because this specific chart is linked to our new data set, right? So we're going to use the same one. So what we're going to do, so right now we're not going to use anything from here. So we're going to create a custom query. So I tell you why I'm doing it. So this is the display name, and we need a value, right? Display name could be anything. You can put your name and then the value, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a text, and I'm going to do, say, first name, right? And then I'm going to add a column, right? Pay attention to it. You can use dimension or you can use measure. So we're going to use dimension here. So in dimension, that's where, if you remember, I talked about our new data set, because the chart is created using our new data set, right? So we need to use a similar data set here. So we're going to use this one, okay? And I'm going to change this value to value and add dimension. So I'm going to add the first name, right? And then add text here, last name. And this is, okay, and I'm going to add as last name, right? And I don't want this rows here, so I'm going to delete it. So nice and easy. So what I've done, I've created a display column and a value column. Display column, first name. You can put anything you want, as I said. And the value column is basically it's a data set value field. It's contact or field name, so which is coming from our new data set, right? So that's nice and easy. We don't have to do anything to the third column, so leave it as such, right? You're gonna do this, and you see we have here something called static here, right? That's very nice. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add this toggle button here, right? So nice and easy, right? Now drag this boy here and drag it over here, right? and there you go. You got a first name. Okay, let me extend this. Okay, so you got first name and last name toggle, right? Nice and easy. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, we have to do one more step. We have to make a default selection to ensure that at least one value is selected. So that means you can't leave it as unselected, any of them. It has to be the first name or last name, right? So, but by default, it will select the first name. So you got a query here, and we got a selection type, and we're gonna do single selection required. So you select this component and go to query and selection type and single selection required, right? Nice and easy, nothing fancy about it, right? Okay, now select here. So go to query. So this is a static one you need to pay attention to. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna try to write a statement to get the value out of this specific query. So now it's get a bit messy, so let's see how to write it, because I often forget the syntax. My apologies if I do that, but I'm gonna try my best to remember it, because I don't remember syntax, to be honest. So if I wanted, I'd just Google it. So, but that being said, let's try it. So first thing first, you remember we talked about going to the JSON editor, right? So the way to do that, Control Shift E, right? Glad you remember. Cool. All right, it will take you here. Now, the first thing we need to remember, the housekeeping stuff, right? We need to have this value in place. Okay, so that's the query. So this is where all the magic happens. So Control E, Control F, right? And this is where you need to write. So okay, now I wanted to get the value out of that static underscore one, right? Now we can use that. I'm going to use the column selection to do that. There is a method called column selection, so we're going to use that one. And so we're going to do, hopefully I'm going to get it right. Okay, all right, so we're going to do column dot as object, because it's deserializing it. So we're going to do, now what we're going to do, I'm going to save this one for now, right? It will error out, you see? It's error out, right? That's fine, because I need this value. That's why I said you need to do housekeeping first. You need to store the values in your notepad somewhere, so that you don't have this issue. So now we're gonna do this dot selection. We are selecting here, comma. Now we're gonna do this one, this one, this one. Hopefully. Okay, I don't know, man, if it works. If it doesn't work, then my right that doesn't seem to work. Okay, what we're gonna do, as usual, I said I often get confused with this. So let's go to the help file, which is very good. All right, so this is exactly what I wanted. So I'm gonna copy this boy here, and you see, you don't have to remember everything, right? So because you just need to know where to put the stuff in. So that's all. All right, okay. So it seems okay to me. Now, if you remember, we have put this in our previous when we were doing hard coding the contact.last name. We did it 3 places, right? Now we can do that 3 places, but it won't work in this case. I'll show you why. Right? Okay. So let's do this first, and then one step at a time, right? It did something. Now, if I do this, and will it work? Well, let's find out. It didn't do anything, right? It's not doing anything. It doesn't make any sense. It's not, because the chart is not, it's not putting a dent on the chart. It's not even, the chart is not budging. It's not doing anything, basically. So, all right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna change this a little bit more. We're gonna tweak it a little bit more. Okay. So control. I'm gonna show you the common pitfalls which you're gonna do, which I used to do it and I struggled with that. Okay, and it took me ages to figure out. Okay, now your next thing will be like, oh, okay, so I've added this to groups, which is great. Now let's go and add it to columns. So as usual, like everyone, yeah, I'm gonna copy this. And I'm gonna go to columns and look for a column somewhere here. Column, is that column map? Oh yeah, that's a column map. Okay, let me add this here. All right, should work. Okay, now that's the second thing you're gonna do. Okay, now say, all right, seems to be doing something. It's not doing anything. Oh, okay. Then you realize, aha, I forgot it at one more place. Okay, let me add it to another place, right? Remember the chart underscore one. And where they had the chart underscore one has a column field as well. So you think, okay, let me add this to column here. Column trip. Okay, this will do the job. All right, you think, okay, good luck with that. Voila. Now you might wonder, what just happened? If we just reference a field that's available. Problem is, it works a bit different when you do this. Right, so the way to solve this, right? So go to Control Shift T, right? And this is a column, right? We need to make this column map as null. Okay, so what we're gonna do, so take this off and just make it null. Right, okay, and now save it. Right, there you go. Right, now it's by first name. What if I do by last name? Yep, Muller. But you see it is changing now, right? Okay, now, if you wanted to change further, right, we can do one more step. Go here, go to the map. What's that map? There's a map here. Okay, the way I select is as object. Right, the second one. Right, okay, so make this as null as well. Let's see what happens. Okay, and we're gonna do, right. Okay, now, let's do last name. Didn't do anything, right? So the point is, it won't work when you're gonna use that as object on that on the column map for the chart one, right? So that's the way you can get it to work, right? Now we have wait a second. We're gonna do Control E again. So we're gonna do as object both places, and we're gonna do. Remember one thing. So you have to pay if you remember when I renamed the field as display and value. So see these other two values. Right, so value, you can't have any name, right? So if it's different name, you need to make sure you put a different name under here, right? Otherwise it won't work, right? Because if it's something else there, let's change it to let's see if it works. Okay, we know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do Control done. Gonna go ahead. You can edit here if you wanted to edit the stuff here. can go here, edit, you can go continue, value 1, 2, save it. Oh, that seems to work, which is great. All right. Okay, so we're gonna do, right, okay. Now you see it doesn't work. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Now, if you're gonna do this, you see, it doesn't make any sense here, right? Because if you do here more widgets, more details, doesn't do anything. Okay, you see, contains an error. The column value does not exist in the data, right? This is what I was trying to say. Okay, all right, okay. Oh man, that's not good. Okay, all right, we're gonna do done. Right, so what we need to do, because what we have done, we have changed this to value 1, 2, right? So we gotta have, it takes some time to reflect it. So that's why it was, so you see that this has changed to value 1, 2. So we need to go back and put that as value 1, 2. Otherwise it won't work, right? So we're gonna do value 1, 2. And you're gonna do done, right? Well, it's back on track. So that's exactly what I wanted to demonstrate. That's the reason why I've demonstrated you JSON first, because you need to understand a little bit of how the JSONs are formed and how the properties are structured inside the JSON file, right? The best way you can figure out is by doing a point and click on the existing chart and add values to see how it works, add filters to see how it works, add limits to see how it works, right? And then once you do that, you can pretty much work out the, we can even add limits, right? If you wanted to restrict the data by 1, you can, or 2 or 10, whatever, you can do that using limit. You can put a toggle, or you can even use other filters, right? You can use list as well, right? So you can use all this stuff. So this is one of the powerful feature that Einstein offers, right? Create a query. So with that, you can customize your dashboard, to a greater extent to the way client wants, right? Because it gives you a greater flexibility to the way you can do stuff on Einstein. You don't have to be tech savvy to do that, because as I've mentioned to you, it's not a coding side. It's looking at, if you are someone who worked with XML, right, you will feel comfortable working with JSON. JSON is more readable than XML, in my opinion. So you'll find this more comfortable working compared to XML. So that's the only thing I wanted to demonstrate. No machine learning class today, because I thought, I've given enough introductory stuff so that you can understand the vocabulary a bit. So I will start machine learning class in detail when I'm going to start with TensorFlow. So that's one of the stuff which is nothing to do with the Salesforce though. So that's something that's coming in the future. Because I don't have time, too much of stuff going on in my life. So, so yeah. That being said, I hope you find some value out of today's session. So if you want me to do extra stuff, please leave that in the comment below. I will try to respond whenever I get time. So thank you very much, guys, for your time today. I hope you have an amazing day wherever you are. Adios.